More than 100 Russian tanks and armored vehicles were sent into a major assault. But before that formation could create real pressure, the sky above had already seen every movement. From the ground, it looked like a mechanized force rushing forward with tanks, APCs, and wave attacks coming one after another. But from above, it looked more like a line of targets moving into an area that had already been watched. A Ukrainian reconnaissance UAV could identify the direction of the attack, keep the convoy under observation, and turn every small change on the ground into data for the firepower behind it. On the battlefield in Ukraine, a tank does not only face danger when it is hit, it can begin losing from the moment it is detected. When speed is pulled into a minefield, when the formation is blocked by artillery, and when isolated vehicles become targets for FPV drones, a major assault can start falling apart before it even reaches the main defensive line. Why does the greatest danger for a Russian convoy not begin when it is hit, but when a Ukrainian reconnaissance UAV first finds it in the sky? And how did Ukraine turn the view from above into attack data before the Russian convoy could reach the main defensive line? Let's find out with military force. The most dangerous moment for a Russian armored assault often begins when the lead vehicle stops moving. At that point, the convoy is no longer a fast-attacking force. It becomes a blocked formation under observation, and every second of delay gives Ukrainian artillery and FPV teams more time to prepare. This is why minefields matter so much in Ukraine. A mine does not need to destroy every tank or APC. It only needs to stop one vehicle at the right place, and the formation can begin to lose its rhythm. In this assault, Russian tanks and APCs pushed forward in waves, but the ground ahead was already dangerous. When one tank hit a mine and stopped, the vehicles behind it had to slow down, turn, or decide whether to keep moving. That hesitation changed the fight. A convoy depends on speed, spacing, and direction. When the front vehicle is damaged, the rest of the column can become trapped by its own size. Some vehicles cannot move forward. Others cannot turn safely. This is where Ukraine turns mines into a tool for controlling movement. The goal is not only to damage armor. The goal is to shape where the enemy can drive, slow the assault, and push the convoy into places where artillery and drones can hit. Artillery becomes more dangerous after a mine strike because the target is no longer moving freely. Ukrainian reconnaissance drones can keep watching from above while gunners adjust fire onto the blocked column. A moving line of vehicles is harder to hit again and again, but a stalled convoy gives the defender time to correct aim and repeat strikes. This creates a layered defense. Mines slow the vehicles. Artillery punishes the cluster. FPV drones then look for damaged or isolated targets. Each layer gives the next one more time to work. The transcript shows this pattern clearly. Some APCs did not continue after the first vehicle was stopped, while another tank tried to move around and hit a mine. One obstacle can spread confusion through the entire formation. For Russian crews, the pressure is not only physical. A driver who sees the lead tank explode knows the same road may be mined. A commander who orders the convoy forward risks losing more vehicles. This is why the third stage of the battle is so important. Ukraine does not need to defeat every vehicle at once. It needs to break the assault's rhythm, separate the vehicles, and force the formation to stop acting as one body. And once the vehicles are slowed, damaged, or isolated, the next stage becomes even more dangerous because FPV drones can begin hunting the weak points that armor cannot fully protect. Russia's armored assault was built around pressure, not surprise. The plan was simple on paper. Tanks would move forward first and create direct fire against Ukrainian positions, while APCs followed behind to carry infantry closer to the line. This is the basic logic of wave attacks. If one group is slowed or hit, another group can keep moving from a different direction. If the first wave draws Ukrainian fire, the next wave may use that moment to move closer. In older battlefield conditions, this method could create real danger for a defender. A large armored push can force the enemy to fire in several directions at once and create confusion when smoke, explosions, and moving vehicles cover the ground. That is why Russia keeps using this approach in some sectors. Tanks still bring firepower and armor. APCs still move infantry faster than soldiers can move on foot. The problem is that wave attacks need movement, timing, and confusion to work. If those three elements stay together, the assault can become dangerous. But if one of them breaks, the whole formation starts to look exposed. On a battlefield watched by drones, that danger begins before the vehicles reach the main Ukrainian line. A large armored group is not only a force moving forward, it is also a visible pattern on the ground. This is where the modern battlefield turns size into risk. More vehicles can mean more pressure, but they also create more signals for Ukrainian reconnaissance. A long column is easier to track than a small team. Several groups moving from different directions can reveal the shape of the attack. Once UAVs begin watching, Ukraine can decide which group is most dangerous, which route matters most, and where the assault may slow down. In the transcript, Russia reportedly deployed more than 100 armored vehicles from different directions. That number matters because it shows the scale of pressure Moscow tried to create. This was not a light raid or a small local probe. It was a serious mechanized push designed to overload Ukrainian defenders across several points. Yet that same scale created a targeting problem for Russia. When many tanks and APCs move across open or semi-open ground, they cannot hide easily. Their route becomes clearer. Their spacing becomes important. Their speed becomes easier to measure. Their lead vehicles become priority targets because they shape the movement of everyone behind them. If the first vehicles are stopped, the rest of the wave may not collapse immediately, but it begins to lose the clean rhythm needed for a breakthrough. This is why Ukraine does not have to destroy the whole assault at once. It only has to read the movement early enough. If reconnaissance drones identify the direction of attack, Ukrainian units can prepare fire and wait for the formation to enter vulnerable ground. Russia's plan was to force Ukraine to react. Ukraine's answer was to make Russia's movement predictable. That difference is important. A wave attack depends on the defender becoming overwhelmed, but drone observation helps the defender stay organized. Instead of seeing only smoke and vehicles from the trench line, Ukraine can watch the assault from above and understand how the waves are forming. That wider view allows the defense to treat the attack as a sequence, not as chaos. One group moves forward, another follows, a third tries to exploit the pressure. So the Russian assault created pressure, but it also created exposure. The more vehicles entered the fight, the more Ukraine could identify patterns, select targets, and prepare the next layer of defense. Tanks and APCs still mattered, but they were no longer moving through empty ground. They were moving through watched ground. And once a large formation enters an area Ukraine has already observed, the next danger often begins under the tracks, where mines and artillery start breaking the rhythm of the assault. The most dangerous moment for a Russian armored assault often begins when the lead vehicle stops. A tank or APC can enter the battlefield with heavy armor, strong firepower, and infantry support. But all of that depends on movement. Once the first vehicle is blocked, the whole rhythm of the assault begins to change. What looked like a strong mechanized push can quickly become a line of vehicles trying to understand the danger. This is why Ukrainian minefields play such an important role. A mine does not need to destroy every vehicle in the column. It only needs to stop the right vehicle at the right place. The vehicles behind it must slow down, turn away, or wait for orders. In that short delay, the assault begins to lose speed. For a mechanized formation, speed is not just about moving fast. It is about keeping pressure on the defender. Tanks and APCs need spacing, timing, and direction. If the front vehicle stops too suddenly, the vehicles behind can bunch together. If one driver tries to go around the wreck, he may enter another dangerous strip of ground. That is where the minefield becomes more than a hidden explosive threat. It becomes a tool for shaping the battlefield. Ukraine can use mines to narrow the possible routes, force Russian armor into predictable lanes, and slow the assault before it reaches the main defensive line. The minefield does not act alone. It prepares the target for the next layer of fire. Once the convoy slows, Ukrainian artillery becomes more dangerous. A moving formation is harder to strike repeatedly, but a stalled group gives gunners more time to adjust fire. Reconnaissance UAVs can continue watching from above, track which vehicles are still moving, and help correct the next strike. This is the critical shift. Russia may still have tanks and APCs in the field, but the assault is no longer moving as one body. Some vehicles try to push forward. Others hesitate. Some may turn to find another route. That uneven movement weakens the whole attack, because a mechanized assault needs order as much as it needs firepower. The pressure on Russian crews also grows quickly. A driver who sees the lead vehicle hit by a mine knows the ground ahead may be unsafe. A commander must decide whether to keep pushing or risk losing more vehicles in the same lane. The minefield and artillery combination is effective because each layer strengthens the next. Mines break tempo. Artillery punishes the delay. UAVs keep the target visible. Together, they turn forward movement into a trapped situation. The goal is not only to destroy armor, but to make the assault lose coordination before it can create a real breach. When Russian vehicles are forced to stop or move slowly, the next danger becomes easier to apply. Damaged vehicles stand out. Isolated vehicles lose protection from the formation. Vehicles turning away expose weaker angles. At that point, Ukraine does not need to chase a fast-moving assault. It can begin selecting targets one by one. This is where the third stage of the battle becomes decisive. The minefield creates the first break. Artillery widens it. UAVs keep the battlefield under control from above. The Russian formation may still be present, but its tempo has been damaged. After mines and artillery break the rhythm of the Russian formation, Ukraine can move to a more precise layer of attack, using FPV drones to strike the weak points of individual vehicles. FPV drones become most dangerous when a Russian vehicle has already lost speed, space, and protection from the rest of the formation. At this stage, Ukraine is no longer trying to stop a large armored push with one broad strike. The target has become smaller, clearer, and more exposed. A tank slowed by mines or artillery is easier to study from above, and once Ukrainian operators understand its angle, they can look for the parts that heavy armor does not fully protect. A tank is built to survive direct fire from the front, but FPV drones change the direction of danger. They can approach from above, from the side, from behind, or through a narrow opening around added armor. This is why Ukrainian crews often aim at weaker areas, such as the turret ring, engine section, roof, rear, side armor, or near the main gun. The goal is not always one dramatic explosion. Sometimes the goal is to damage enough systems until the vehicle can no longer move, see, aim, or fight with full strength. Russian crews understand this threat. So many tanks carry extra protection. Some vehicles have cage armor, metal frames, roof screens, or field modifications around the turret and engine deck. These additions can reduce the first strike by making the drone explode too early, hit at a poor angle, or fail to reach the main armor. But protection has limits. Extra armor can make a tank harder to kill, but it cannot cover every weak point. It can also add weight, reduce visibility, and make movement harder. More important, it does not solve the main problem. If the vehicle remains under observation, Ukraine can keep watching and adjust the next attack. This is why repeated FPV strikes are so dangerous. One drone may damage an outer layer, another may hit the same area from a better angle. A later strike may reach the engine, track, turret base, or sensors that help the crew see and aim. The tank may still look alive from a distance, but inside the battle, its combat value may already be falling. Some Russian tanks continue moving or firing after several hits, and that detail matters. It shows that added protection can still have value. A tank may keep its gun active for a short time, or it may crawl toward cover after the first attack. Extra armor can buy minutes, and in war, minutes matter. Still, temporary survival is not battlefield control. A damaged tank that turns away, loses speed, or hides near trees is no longer leading the assault with confidence. It is trying to stay alive. If the crew cannot see clearly, communicate well, or move freely, the vehicle becomes less useful even before it is fully destroyed. A tank can remain on the field, but if it no longer shapes the assault, its role has already changed. Ukraine does not need every strike to be perfect. It needs to keep pressure on the same target until armor, movement, and crew awareness begin to fail together. And when a damaged tank or APC pulls back into bushes, fortifications, or abandoned buildings, Ukraine can continue the hunt with grenade-dropping drones and follow-on strikes against the rear network that keeps the assault alive. The end of movement does not always mean the end of the battle. When Russian tanks and APCs slow down, turn away, or hide after being hit, Ukraine can continue the pressure in a different form. The first FPV strike may damage the vehicle, but the follow-up hunt often decides whether that vehicle can return to the fight or becomes a permanent loss. This is where night operations become important. In the past, darkness could give damaged vehicles a chance to pull back, repair, or wait for recovery teams. In Ukraine, that safety has become weaker. UAVs, thermal cameras, and grenade-dropping drones can keep searching after daylight fades. A tank hiding near trees, a damaged APC beside an abandoned house, or a vehicle parked close to a field. Fortification may look safer from the ground, but from above, it can still leave signs. The battlefield does not stop after one explosion. A damaged vehicle can be watched, marked, and struck again when the crew believes the worst moment has passed. Heat from the engine, movement around the vehicle, tracks in the soil, or a crew trying to escape can help drone teams keep contact. A grenade-dropping drone may attack the roof, an open hatch, a damaged section, or the area where ammunition is stored. Even a vehicle that survived the first hit can become vulnerable if it cannot move or hide properly. The pressure is also psychological. If a Russian vehicle is damaged, the crew must decide whether to stay inside, abandon it, or wait for recovery. Each choice carries risk. Staying may mean another drone strike. Leaving may expose soldiers in open ground. This makes the hunt continuous. Ukraine can keep damaged vehicles under pressure until they are removed from the fight. Ukraine also extends the fight beyond the frontline vehicles. Once the assault is blocked, the next targets are often the systems that keep the attack alive. Ammunition points, weapon storage, communications equipment, supply vehicles, and staging areas become part of the same battlefield. This matters because a wave attack does not run on armor alone. It needs fuel, shells, radio links, repair support, and organized command. If those rear elements are hit, Russia loses more than a few vehicles. It loses the ability to send the next wave forward with full strength. A tank without fuel cannot exploit pressure. An APC without clear orders cannot deliver infantry at the right time. This is why Ukraine's drone campaign is dangerous at several levels. It can strike the vehicle at the front, then search for the support network behind it. The same assault that begins with tanks and APCs can end with damaged logistics, broken communications, and a slower Russian tempo. From here, the story is no longer only about one destroyed convoy. It becomes a wider lesson about how mechanized warfare is changing under a sky filled with drones. Modern war is forcing armored formations to survive under constant observation. In Ukraine, a tank or APC does not only face danger when it reaches the trench line. It can be seen far earlier by a reconnaissance UAV, tracked across open ground, and placed inside a wider targeting system before its crew fully understands where the threat is coming from. This changes the meaning of movement. A large armored formation no longer looks only like strength. It can also look like a pattern waiting to be read. This does not mean tanks and APCs have lost their value. They still bring firepower, armor, mobility, and the ability to move infantry through dangerous ground. No drone can fully replace the shock effect of armored vehicles when they are used well. But armor now needs a stronger shield around it. Short-range air defense, electronic warfare, camouflage, smoke, engineering support, and steady logistics are no longer optional layers. They are part of survival. A modern mechanized assault needs more than guns and engines. It needs speed, spacing, communication, supply, and the ability to adapt when the lead vehicle is stopped. If one tank hits a mine, the formation must still know where to move. If drones appear above, crews need protection from both the air and the ground. Ukraine's defense shows how this battlefield now works as a chain. Reconnaissance drones identify movement. Mines slow the route. Artillery strikes clustered vehicles. FPV drones attack isolated targets. Grenade-dropping drones continue pressure after dark. Other UAVs search for the supply points that keep the assault alive. Each layer does a different job, but together they make movement harder to sustain. This is the deeper lesson for every army watching the war. The number of tanks still matters, but numbers alone cannot guarantee a breakthrough. A force may bring many vehicles into the fight, yet still fail if those vehicles cannot stay hidden, connected, supplied, and protected from real-time targeting. The future of armored warfare may not be decided by whether tanks survive as a weapon. It may be decided by whether armies can build enough protection around them to move under a sky filled with drones. So this battle is not only about one Russian convoy being destroyed. It points to the future of every mechanized force that enters a battlefield where the sky is already watching. This battle shows that armored power is not disappearing, but it is becoming harder to use. A Russian convoy can enter the field with tanks, APCs, wave attacks, and direct fire. But once Ukraine sees it early, every advantage begins to shrink. Movement becomes data. Speed becomes risk. A stopped formation becomes a target area. Then FPV drones turn isolated vehicles into separate battles that Russia must fight one by one. The lesson is not that tanks are obsolete. The lesson is that tanks can no longer move alone in a battlefield watched by UAVs. They need electronic warfare, short-range air defense, smoke, camouflage, flexible routes, and strong logistics behind them. Ukraine's defense shows a new reality for modern war. The side that sees first often strikes better. The real question now is how long any mechanized force can survive when the sky has already found it. If this analysis helped you understand how modern weapons, battlefield tactics, and political decisions shape the cost of war, please like, share, and subscribe to Military Force. This channel studies war for education, not for celebration, because every battlefield lesson should remind us why peace matters. Thank you for watching, and stay with Military Force for more clear analysis on the weapons, battles, and geopolitical shifts shaping today's world.